Thank you. Hi, everybody. Like she said, Ryan Moore. I'm with Conover Insurance, based out of the Yakima office. I know almost everybody on this call, so hello to you. Hello to the few of you that I don't know. Thanks for coming today. Following up, I know Samantha did an insurance, one of these a few months ago. She did a great job, so I'm hoping I can do half as well as she did. So if I can do that, I'll be happy. So this is going to be just kind of a very, very general overview of what insurance is, what is out there, how things work in the background, just to give you some very high level information. And then if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate, throw them in the chat or do whatever. I'll keep an eye on that and answer them as I can. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. I spent a whole lot of time putting this PowerPoint together. So Emily, not if you can see that. Okay. All right. So insurance is essentially transferring risk to another party. Okay. So we'll go back a little bit and talk about what is risk. Okay. Let's see if it works. Please work. What? Oh yeah, fancy. Okay. Lindsay helped me with that. All right, what is risk? It's a noun. Risk is a situation involving exposure to danger, okay? So when it comes to your business, what are risks, right? I'm sure everyone, depending on what your business is, you all know what type of things you think about could harm your business, you know, what keeps you up at night, that kind of stuff. So risk is kind of what the insurance industry revolves around, whether it be for your business, for your home, for your auto, life insurance, medical insurance, you know, boat, motorhome, all that stuff. It's all dealing with risk for those items. So here we go. So what can we do with risk? Okay, there are three things we can do with risk. Okay, first, we can assume risk. So I like to use hello, Jerry Martins, welcome. So I like to use the example, you know, pretend like there aren't state laws requiring minimum levels of car insurance. Okay, let's pretend like that doesn't exist. Okay, I like to use the car example for this explanation. So let's say you're driving your car. Okay, there's a risk of driving your car. You could hit somebody else. You could wreck into a telephone pole. There's liability. There's physical damage implications there. So what can you do? So if you drive your car and you assume all the risk, that would be you having no insurance at all. That means that if you get into an accident and your car gets damaged, you're paying for it out of your pocket. If you hit somebody and they need to go to the hospital, you're paying for it out of your pocket. That would be you assuming all risks related to driving your car, right? Next, avoid. If you want to avoid the risk, you would just not drive anywhere. You could take the bus, you could walk, you could ride your bike. But if you wanted to not have the risk associated with driving a car, you would avoid it. What's next? Transfer the risk. This is where insurance comes in. This is where you pay your premium to your insurance company for your car insurance, and they agree to help you out if an accident or an incident were to ever come up. So those are kind of the three levels of risk, what you can do with them, and that applies to anything in your life. Okay? So following up on that, what is insurance? Boom. A practice or arrangement by which a company or government agency provides a guarantee of compensation for specified loss, damage, illness, or death in return for your payment of a premium. Okay? So how does that work? Let's look here. Okay? So let's say me, Emily, Chelsea, and Jerry Martins, okay? We all pay premiums into an insurance company, okay? We're all paying $100 a month, okay? So every month, the insurance company is getting $400. Well, I'm policyholder one, and I say, hey, I have a claim I need to pay. I need paid. I pay you my premium. You guys need to help pay my claim. So what they do is they take everybody's money, they pool it together, and they hold on to it. And then in the event of a claim for one of us, part of that agreement in paying premium is that they have to, for the most part, they have to help us out and give us money to pay for whatever the claim is or the damage is. So that's a very, very generic view of what insurance or I'm sorry, how insurance works, okay? Next, what is insurance still? Let's look. So how does insurance get priced? I get this question a lot. Why is my insurance so expensive? Why does it cost that much for my, why does it cost that much for my dirt bike when I only ride it off road? I don't drive it on the road. Why does it cost so much? Things like that. This is how insurance companies figure out your pricing, okay, for whatever it is. In order to set insurance prices, companies need to predict claims costs for each policy. Insurers use historical claims cost to predict future claims costs. So I'm sure, as some of you know, or all of you know that are, have businesses, or, even in your home or your personal auto, we've seen car insurance prices go up. We've seen property prices go up. Other, lines are starting to creep up. Those are based on, those aren't, don't take that personally. It's not because they don't like Emily as a driver. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they have a reason to, but most it's because a lot of these companies have taken hits. They've paid out a lot of claims. And so to do that, they have to readjust their numbers in the background and find out that they need to charge a little more for that coverage. And so prices start to creep up over time. Okay. What else? So how is an insurance price created? Okay. This is just one example. This has to do with car insurance. Okay. This is kind of the easiest one that people understand the most. Okay. So the base rate is here. So this is how they figure out the base. So, they base your rate based on your, and this is not discriminatory or anything like that. I know that's come up before, but this is very fact-based stuff. So based on your gender, your marital status, your age, and your education, they come up with a base rate. From there, they look at what car you're driving, how new it is it unleaded, is it diesel, is it electric? There's a rating factor for all of these, okay? Then they look at where you're living. So if you live in Yakima, your rate's going to be a little lower than if you live in Seattle. Okay, population density has an effect on that. Neighborhood age profile. If you're living in a neighborhood that has a lot of younger drivers versus in a 55 and older community, the rate's going to be a little different. Renters versus homeowners, how big is your family, all has an effect on that. To go from there, then you look at stuff you can do. So deductibles. The lower your deductible, the higher your premium is going to be, because the insurance company is, like we talked about initially, the insurance company is taking on more of your risk by having your deductible be lower, so less money would come out of your pocket in the event of a claim. Okay, increased limits. If your limit is $300,000 versus your limit is $1 million, obviously the insurance company's on a bigger hook for some of that, so they're going to charge you more premium for the higher limit. Bundled coverages. Obviously, everybody wants you to have all of your lines of coverage with them. So if you put more lines of coverage, they'll usually give you a bundled discount. Flo from Progressive is big on that. I'm sure you've seen those commercials. And then safe driver discount. That's a big one too, especially for young drivers. If you can, those of you that have kids that are old enough to drive, the GPA discount and the no accident discount and stuff like that, that all plays into how a premium is calculated and how much you get charged for whatever your exposure is. Okay. All right. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. So what are business insurance types? This is a very high level view. Okay. This is not an all encompassing list. This is very, just a sampling of what's out there. Okay. So work comp, we're in Washington State. So our state is called monopolistic state, sorry. We're one of four states in the country where the state runs the L&I or work comp program. Most states, you have to buy a separate work comp policy. Washington is not one of those states. Disability insurance, kind of like, short-term disability, long-term disability, AD&D, stuff like that. Cyber insurance, this is one that is very misunderstood. A lot of people think that because their business is only 10 people, or they're a contractor, or they're a painter, or whatever, this might not apply to them. This is the fastest growing line of coverage for claims. We're getting more cyber insurance claims year over year than any other type of insurance. So this is a big one. Doesn't matter how big of a business you are, doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter where you're located. Everybody has an exposure for this. Okay. Commercial property insurance. This is kind of the one, this and general liability. This is the one that people think of when they think of insurance, right? They think of, I own a building, my building burns down, I need coverage for fire, or whatever. This is kind of one of the two main lines of coverage. Product liability insurance. This does not fit for everybody, but so like it says here, for businesses that offer products rather than services, product liability insurance protects your business against any lawsuits regarding your product. So if you buy something and it doesn't work and it ends up hurting someone and the customer that purchased it sues you, this would help you out in that regard. Key person insurance. This is big in businesses where, you know, the CEO kind of does, the CEO kind of does everything, or they have a key salesperson or a key, you know, CFO. You can take insurance policies out on that person. So in the event that they aren't able to work anymore through, unfortunately, death or something like that, you're able to get some money to help replace that person. Product liability insurance is on here twice. Professional liability. So this is a big one for like architects or designers. We have Traditional Designs as one of the sponsors of this series. This is a big exposure for them. So, you know, for an architect or a designer, if you're designing a home and that home gets built and they come back and they say, hey, you know, you didn't design my HVAC system correctly and I have to go and get it redone, I'm going to ding you to pay for the difference. That's where this would come into play. Business interruption insurance. This is a big one. So this is related to commercial property mostly. There's some other ones too, but business interruption. So kind of in the example I gave before, let's say your building burns down, right? Does that mean all your employees and you get 6 months off and money just keeps rolling in? More than likely not, right? So business interruption insurance will pay for a lot of different things. It can pay for you guys to rent a different office space to work out of. It can potentially pay for loss of revenues while you are in a different space or not able to open up. So you don't have a loss of income there to a certain degree. So this is a big insurance option there. If you don't have this, I would ask whoever you have doing your insurance products about this. This is a big one. General liability. This is another one. This is the slips, trips, falls, stuff like that. And then unemployment insurance. Again, this is built in Washington State, so this isn't really something we deal with a lot in our state, but this is something that's out there as well. Okay. So what are the most common types of claims? So I will preface before I go to the body of this. I pulled this picture that's about to come up from a carrier. I will tell you what I see is different than what this slide says. So this is nationwide stats. Then I'll go through this, then I'll give you guys kind of an idea of what I see day to day around this area. So according to this, most common property and liability claims. So burglary and theft, that can be, employee or outside. More often than not, burglary or theft does come from inside the business, from your employees. We see more claims related to those lines of coverage from people than people walking in and off the street and trying to steal something. Damage from water and freezing. We see this occasionally depending on the situation, if it's a vacant building or if it's a building you don't use all the time, or maybe you have a seasonal business where you're a landscaper or something and you have a building where you store your equipment in the winter while you're not using it. Well, if the heat isn't kept to a proper level and the pipes freeze and burst, here we go. Wind and hail. This happens certain areas more than others. Ellensburg probably has more wind damage claims than other areas, but that definitely does happen, and there is coverage for that. Fire. A lot of people think fire when they think of property insurance. This is kind of the go-to. If you look just on this list alone, it's the fourth highest, and I actually think it's lower than that based on what I see around here. And then again, like we talked about a second ago, general liability, the customer slips and falls. That does happen and can be quite expensive. So I can tell you what I see. In Washington State especially, we see a lot of what's not on here is a lot of employment practices types claims. So that would be, let's say you have an employee or a potential employee bring a suit against you for harassment, discrimination based on age, gender, religion, whatever. that kind of stuff. I see a lot of those, and we're seeing more and more of those in Washington State, especially. Last I checked, that was the #2 type of civil case brought to the Washington court system outside of divorce. So it is definitely up there, and it is definitely an exposure. The one thing I hear a lot from businesses, we're a family here. I've had this guy working for me for 25 years. Nothing's ever going to happen. I'm not trying to scare you, but it can happen, and it probably will at some point. So be prepared that does happen. In Washington State, the big thing to know is they can file a claim whether or not they have proof at the time, and you're going to spend money to defend yourself whether or not they're right. So keep that in mind. Like I talked about a little bit ago, cyber, we're starting to see a big uptick in cyber claims. We see a lot of, people think of the hacker behind the screen just typing away, going crazy, trying to get into your computer system for your bank info or whatever. There's been a lot of news last couple of years about ransomware, where people will hack into your system, take over your server, and then demand payment to give you access back to it. That is pretty prevalent. Another big one that I've actually had experience with personally with 2 clients in the Yakima Valley is called social engineering. That is, so an example, I'm not going to use names because I can't, but let's say you are a business and you pay vendors through wire transfer through your bank, right? Checks, big checks. Some people don't feel comfortable putting big checks in the mail. Electronic wire transfer, funds transfer is an easy way to do it for big chunks straight to the vendor. Well, hypothetically, someone pays people via wire transfer. They're getting ready to pay an invoice that they receive from their vendor. Vendor emails them and says, hey, just so you know, we switched banks. This is our new account number, our new routing number. Please send all the next payment to this bank account. Okay, looks like their name, looks like their signature on the bottom of their email, looks legit. You send it. Week goes by, you get a call from the person that you actually know. Hey, just waiting on that payment. Have you, what's the story? Well, I sent it a week ago. So what they're doing now is hackers can actually intercept emails, and they can kind of monitor who you're sending emails to and kind of figure out what the best course of action is. And they will then impersonate the person that you think you're paying and get you to believe that you're talking to them and get you to wire them money directly. Well, unless you have a specific endorsement on your cyber policy or your crime policy for that, because your employee or you or whoever voluntarily clicked that button and sent the money, there's no coverage. So that's a big one. I know personally of a person here in the Valley that lost 6 figures recently due to that. So that can be a potentially big exposure. So if you do not have coverage for that, and that is something that you do pay electronically or things like that, talk to whoever your insurance agent is and make sure you have a social engineering endorsement on either your cyber or your crime policy. Okay. All right. Then we talked about this a little bit ago, but why, people always ask, think before you click. Exactly, Chelsea. Thank you. Why is insurance going up? Why is my insurance so expensive? Well, here are reasons. Lawsuits lead to higher costs. So if a claim is brought and it isn't settled and it ends up going to court, it results in 35% of all claims result in a lawsuit. A lawsuit can increase the average claim by more than $75,000. That's to do with attorney fees, additional discovery of facts, things like that can really drive up the cost of a claim. And that in turn leads to you paying more money. Okay. We do see, and I can never remember the term, and I apologize, but that we're starting to see the last couple of years where there are third parties financing claims in the hope of a payout. Okay. So I'll give an example, and I'm sorry to keep picking on Emily, but she's the only face I see. So Emily, let's say I get into an accident with Emily. Okay, car accident. Nothing serious, no big deal. Emily says, hey, my neck hurts. I know I need to go to physical therapy or do whatever. Okay, no problem. My insurance company will take care of it. They pay for her bills. Well, let's say Chelsea comes to Emily and says, hey, Emily, don't settle that claim. I will pay for you to get an attorney and go to court and try to get money out of this. But whatever money you get, I want 50% of the net profit. And Emily says, well, I'm not out of anything. Why not? So they don't settle the claim. They go to court, and then, looking on here, it costs more money, and then they drive the cost up. I don't know how it's legal. People ask me that all the time, but it is for now. I know there are different legislations on various levels of government trying to combat this and make this not legal. But I can tell you that over the past couple of years, that is something that has gone on in Washington State, especially, and that is a big driving factor of why everybody's insurance has gone up. So it sounds crazy, but it's true. A couple little tips here for combating the most common claim, burglary and theft. And this, kind of like I said, most of them come from inside your business, right? So conduct background checks on your employees. That's a big one. Everybody can look good in an interview. If I walk up and sound great, and then you look at my background and I have 5 counts of check kiting or burglary or wire fraud or something like that, I might recommend you really think if you want to hire me or not. Adequate devices installed. Obviously, this is just good practice for everybody. Camera system, alarm systems, things like that can help combat any crime type of claim. Most costly claim, and we didn't really talk about this before, but dollar for dollar, the most costly claim out there is reputational harm. And we don't hear about this a lot other than larger businesses, but it does happen to mid and small sized businesses as well. So an example, like right here, you criticize a competitor publicly, social media, you're on a Zoom meeting and people are watching, you trash another competitor. They find out about it, they say, why are you doing that? They sue you for reputational harm. Okay. Another one of those examples could be you Google a picture, you're doing a slide for a presentation like this. You pull some stuff off Google. Hey, I'm just going to use this. It looks good. Well, the person that owns that image didn't give you express permission to use it. They say you aren't allowed to use that. I want you to pay me to use it. You say, okay, what do you want? And they say $100,000. Well, that's probably not realistic, but technically they have the right to charge you to use their product, and that could be a reputational claim that pops up. So that's kind of where we're at. Boom. I made it 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I don't see any questions, but I will take any questions at this time.
Is there insurance to cover you if you have a reputational harm thing? Like
Yes.
what is that?
There is. So if we, I knew someone was going to ask me that, and I debated on whether or not to put that slide in. So yes, there is specific insurance you can get for that. It depends on how that how your business operates and what type of. The short answer is yes. There are a couple different options. What the exposure is and what you're doing as a business, of what type of policy that would be written on. But yes, there are ways to insure.
Any other questions, people? Don't be shy. Jerry says, what would your recommendation be for pre-screening insurance agents? Ooh.
That's a great question, Jerry. Okay. So, it's going to depend on the situation. So, I always say, depending on who they are, it's always going to be what your business is. Different insurance company or agents or brokers, like myself or Samantha, who's in here. We work at different agencies, but we all have access to essentially the same insurance carriers or markets. There's going to be some that I have that she doesn't have access to, and vice versa. So one thing you check is to see, what markets are that agent has available for your type of business. One thing with insurance carriers is not all carriers write everything. Most carriers are specialized into certain industries or types of businesses. There are a few generalists out there, like the Liberty Mutuals, the Nationwides, the Travelers, things like that. But once you get into the more specialty markets, the specialty markets like to appoint certain agencies in a region to kind of protect their interests. So maybe kind of check that, Jerry. Another thing would be, depending on what your needs are, what risk management services are there. So do they offer trainings? Do they have a risk management department that can help you with a safety manual or employee handbook or, whatever. Insurance is one piece of the pie, but there's also things that we can do as agents to help you avoid a claim or reduce the potential of a claim. And that's called risk management. Depending on the agency, there's varying levels of that available. So that's also something that I would ask if I were a business owner, is what do you have available to me other than just me paying a premium and you give me a piece of paper saying I'm covered.
Ryan, do you have an area of specialty?
I wouldn't say I'm a specialty. I'm more of a generalist. I have certain industry segments that are larger than others. Obviously, construction is probably one of my larger ones. I actually work with a good amount of nonprofit entities. I also have a decent amount of ag-related entities. And then from there, I have a little bit of everything. So, manufacturing and things like that, trucking, this and that and the other. So me personally, I kind of just do whatever.
Jerry has a follow-up question.
Okay.
He says, how best can I find out if an agent will have the knowledge and background to understand what my needs are?
Great question, Jerry. I would say when you have that initial conversation with an agent, you'll be able to tell right away. Especially in, just like with any business where someone's offering a product or a service, more often than not, you're going to be able to tell pretty quickly if they're lying through their teeth or if they actually know what they're talking about. Some people can fake it pretty well, but sooner rather than later, you're going to be able to tell if that person knows what they're talking about or not. So, knowing Jerry and knowing what Jerry does, Jerry, talk to people, Jerry, that know agents. I'm sure you have other, friends that don't have the same agent as you. You can definitely get, references from people talk to them more than once. Anybody can do well one time, but if you, get into more detailed questions and start asking for specific answers, you'll be able to tell pretty quickly if they know what they're talking about or not.
Cool. Okay, Brian, do you have contact info here?
Maybe, do I?
Do you have a slide with your contact info? Oh, there we go. There's Ryan at Conover Insurance, which is now a division of Hub.
Yep.
All right. He's based here in Yakima, but he serves clients throughout Central Washington, if not all of Washington. Central Washington, pretty much.
All of Washington.
All of Washington.
And Oregon and Idaho.
Oregon and Idaho. He serves his clients in the Northwest. So if you would like to reach out to Ryan, there's his info. If you forget later, you can always contact us here at the Home Builders because we know how to find him. He's frequently here in the office. Thank you, Ryan, so much for this presentation today.
Yeah,
thank you everyone else for hopping on. We appreciate you. And we want to thank Traditional Designs for bringing this series to you every month. In fact, next month will be July 7th, and that will be featuring Clay Ryland, who is a designer at Traditional Designs, and he will be talking about some of the home design trends that have changed in the post-COVID world. And that's just kind of an interesting thing, what people are looking for, don't want anymore, what they do want. So come back for that. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.